This is Engineers Unplugged. Hi, I'm Lauren, and this is Engineers Unplugged, and I'm here with my buddies Dante and Gary. I'm going to let you guys do your thing and go for it. Have fun.
So Dante, you've been an ACI partner, Embrane, for almost since the inception of ACI. You fill a very unique niche, I think, in the partner ecosystem. And that's something that, as I understand it, it's a virtual services lifecycle manager. I mean, that's not something that a lot of people are probably real familiar with. Can tell us what the Embrane solution does and how it manages these the services.
Yeah, you know, Gary, the fundamental problem is that when you think about the ecosystem of partners around the ACI, there are a lot of layer 4.7 partners, and many of them are also partners of Embrane as well. The problem Embrane solves is not about adding one more service or doing a service any better than anybody else. The problem we solve is that when you look at deploying these services in a virtual form factor, as a virtual appliance, for example, you have a whole set of new problems that did not exist in the physical world. Now, virtual is good for several reasons. It's cheaper, it's much more flexible, allows you to be a lot more granular in assigning these resources to the different users or applications, but it comes with management complexity that needs to be addressed. And so the problem, the lifecycle management that you were talking about just before, which is the right term to use, is really about solving that management complexity that exists because we're dealing with virtual appliances instead of physical. And that's the problem we solved with them at Embrane.
Okay, so if I can kind of summarize that, I'm deploying a new 3-tier application, right? I'm using ACI to spin up a new instance of my application, and my application network profile under ACI includes, you know, a couple load balancers and a firewall between the application tier and the database tier.
Yeah.
So these virtual machines, for the virtual services, are getting spun up maybe for a week at a time, and then I'm going to decommission that app, right? What's Embrane doing for that application network profile? Is it helping to deploy the virtual services, or what is it doing that ACI itself is not doing when those applications get spun up?
Well, if you think of a traditional physical world, in a traditional physical world, you don't have to deal with the fact that applications are stood up and changed very dynamically, right? So in a traditional physical world, you have servers and you have firewalls and load balancers, even network devices. Everything is pre-provisioned. Now think about the beauty of ACI, right? The beauty of ACI is that it allows you to stand up virtual networking on demand for applications with very specific policies that you can create, configure, and manage through the APIC. Well, in the same way, you want to have very similar level of flexibility with your services, right? Why do you have to have all of your firewalls in place for every possible application you may create over time? Why do you want to do that for load balancing or any other network service, right? You want the ability to stand up these things when you need them with the specific requirements and policy of the application that needs them at that point in time. And so what Embrane enables you to do is to dynamically create these things as you come up with that need. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it would make sense. Could you draw, like, where does Embrane sit in the network?
Yeah.
And if you've got, you know, maybe that the virtual services for managing a workload. What?
Yeah. Well, let's start from a physical network, and let's draw it simply as a fabric, for example, right? So you're going to have some leaves and some spines in your topology, and I'm just going to draw a very simple network here of switches, and this is your fabric, right? And then you have servers, which are usually attached. You have compute nodes that get attached to the leaf nodes of the network. Well, all of these, because of APIC and because of ACI, your fabric now can be managed as a single. So you're going to have an APIC controller here, and the APIC is going to enable to manage the whole connectivity, the whole networking as one thing, applying policies, defining connectivity, managing and troubleshooting the physical environment. Very well. if you want to do something with services, you have two options. You can either attach somehow, let's put another box here.
Yeah.
You can either attach your physical appliances, maybe it's a firewall or maybe it's a load balancer, right? You can either attach your physical devices to a leaf node, for example, or you can choose to use some of the compute capacity to run virtual form factors of the same services. So you can have virtual firewalls running all over your infrastructure wherever you want, or you can have virtual load balancer. Now, who's going to take care of making sure that these things are loaded on the right servers, where the right resources are available, they're made, and so this is where Embrane comes into play, and I'm going to use a different color yet again. So this is where Embrane comes into play with our flagship product, the Elastic Services Manager, ESM, and ESM will control the physical infrastructure where these services are deployed, and will make sure that whatever the customer and the user want in terms of policies and performance and capabilities are properly deployed on the compute infrastructure here, and obviously tie all of these with the APIC, so they will insert in the service graph and everything will be made available in the right time.
If I need this for maybe a week as a virtual load balancer, you're keeping track of that, and there may be licensing issues for how much usage now, okay, that's great. So if I'm an enterprise, I go buy my virtual load balancer from my vendor, they may not charge by the hour. There may not be a meter, but if it's a service provider, so are your customers service providers or enterprises?
I'll give you the short answer to make sure that we stay on time, because we've used a lot of time here, but the very quick answer is that yes, for virtual you need a new licensing model that's aggregate, and it's very different than physical. Having an ESM as a central point of management and licensing allows you to enable those licensing models, but that's probably a matter of a different show, I guess.
Beautiful. Dante, really, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Gary.
Clarified a lot of things for us.
Awesome.
Lauren.
Well, thank both of you. All right, okay, now for your biggest challenge, try unicorn.
Oh, okay.
Go. Each of you.
Oh, one each?
Yeah, I'm going to judge you.
It's a B-corn then. No.
A unicorn, yep.
How do you do a unicorn? The Simpson unicorn.
Awesome, well thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren?
I'll see you next time on Engineers Unplugged.